Hey everybody, welcome back. Today we're going to be kind of combining our videos together. So originally we had a mod video and then a part 2 because we found a bunch more that we liked. And so we're going to be mashing them into this one big video. We're going to update everything, we're going to make sure everything looks good, just so anybody who comes across this video, it's straight up, you know exactly how to do it. You just got to watch this video and then you're done. Following that, I am going to be doing a more in-depth guide on these mods in a separate video, and that'll be out soon to come. And more specifically, more importantly, is I'm going to start doing a monthly mod list check. So every month I'm going to check this mod list to make sure there's no discrepancies or retired mods, see if there's any new ones we want to throw in there, and then based upon that I'm going to re-upload. I'm gonna post a video that says, yep, you guys are good to go, all your mods are working, none of them are having any big problems, and none of them have been shut down. So hopefully that helps everyone stay on track, and kind of just every single one's going to have a tutorial, so if newcomers are seeing those, they're still being equipped with it to get their servers set up. So, quick disclaimer, this video has a lot of strobing effects, transitions, and flashing lights. Please be careful when watching this video or skip it if necessary. Stay safe, everybody. Alright, if you're unfamiliar with how to install mods onto a dedicated server, we're going to be using this G-Portal server as an example. If you find a mod you like, you're going to go ahead and go over to the Steam Workshop page. You're going to right click it, see that copy page URL, and you're going to grab that. Then you're going to head over to your dedicated server list. You're going to go ahead and paste it and delete everything but the number. Keep in mind that's very important. Now make sure these are going row by row, otherwise they will not work successfully. First mod we're going to be starting with is actually just a framework mod, and it's called Modular Encounter Systems. And what this mod does is it handles a lot of NPC spawning and etc. So the main one that's going to be using this one is Exploration Enhancement mod. Now these are two separate mods, as you'll see in the bottom right hand of the video. You will need both to function. But once you have both of those in, Exploration Enhancement mod is going to be the big one that kind of puts a lot of stuff into your game. It's basically an expansion that has over 200 new ships, stations, and wreckages, and it puts in factions and trading and a bunch more stuff like that. So it's definitely going to be like the most basic overhaul that you want in your survival playthrough. Now the next mod is going to be the air traffic mod. Normally these do spawn up in the atmosphere. I just got this one down on the ground to get a better example of what they are. These do spawn through reputations, and they will have NPC shields if you guys install that mod later in the list as well. They will also have jetpack inhibitors and stuff like that, so you can't just outright attack them. But in general, these guys will spawn in your atmospheres and kind of fly by you. Sometimes they'll attack you, sometimes they'll leave you alone. Kind of just depends what your reputation is with all the factions. If they're red, they don't want to be near you, they'll attack you, etc. Overall, it's a pretty cool mod just to have that little bit of interaction, having them fly through your atmosphere and stuff. It makes it feel a lot more lively. Next up, we are going to have the Vanilla Planet Crashed Ground Encounters. Now what this one does is this will actually spawn crashed ships around you in your worlds, depending on what planets you're on, but it does go over quite a few. They will have variations that look like this. Some are in better condition than others, but they kind of just drops a ship in there and kind of gives you that really immersive feel of crashed ships and people have been around, past civilizations, stuff like that. So really cool mod to have and kind of immerses you in the experience. Now this next mod is going to be a two-part. This is actually a speed setting, so you're going to need Rich HUD Master, and then following that you're going to need configurable parameters. Specifically what this allows us to do is drop this down and go to environment, and we can up our small ship speed, which keep in mind that does include player speed, and large ship speed. And you can mess with these values how you want, just be careful as the faster they go, the more Space Engineers has trouble kind of calculating the physics for it, and the harder it gets to control yourself as well as your ships. So once you get to a certain velocity, your ships will just essentially disintegrate when they hit something, so just keep that in mind. Next one up is going to be defense shields. So this little red bubble is what the defense shield essentially is. If you try and shoot it, it'll block it. Sometimes it'll block collisions. If this wasn't mine, it would block me from coming into it as well. These are slightly configurable with colors and kind of size and how much kind of power you want to put into them. Overall, it's a really good mod to just kind of protect your ship before you have to start using physical builds to kind of keep your ship alive. Overall, it's a really good and fun mod to keep your ships in a pretty healthy state without having to sacrifice a ton of physical armor. And then also following super closely with that is going to be NPC defense shields. This will simply spawn NPC shields on NPC ships. So if you see one in the sky, sometimes they're low reflective, but they will usually have one installed in their ship. That way you can't just unfairly fight with a shield and they don't have one. Next up, we have our nanobot auto repair and build system. So let's say, for example, we didn't want this and you can change your color and set it to turn red. It will sit here and dismantle it and then put the pieces into its own inventory. And let's say we want this built and it has the parts. We'll turn that on to weld and it would finish welding this part. It has a massive radius and a somewhat low power consumption. Overall, it's a really very quality of life mod. I actually won't play without it personally. Just keep in mind that if you're on a server with friends or a main server, that these will actually start to lag after so many of them are in use. Following closely with that is our nanobot drill and fill system. This is quite literally just a nanobot drill. It'll mine anything out in its box. In my personal opinion, this is pretty strong, if not overpowered, as it transports instantly. Its power consumption is decently low for what it does, and it has such a large radius, so just keep that in mind. But it is a very nice mod if you're wanting to do kind of not use the common drill system. Next up, we have weapon core. So the original weapon core mod is required, and then the rest of these will follow. Original weapon core mod replaces all vanilla weapons in game with the weapon core's version, and this just allows for better integration with the mods. And then following these up, we have the weapon core railgun, the weapon core octo beam lasers, which is actually this one, the weapon core obelisk, which is this kind of crystal-y guy right here, and our weapon core retractable plasma cannon, which is this one right here. These are all very cool weaponry types to have. They do take a little bit to learn, so give yourself the patience to kind of learn how they function. They are a really cool set to have added in. Next up is Life Tech Powers. Now this is a big integration of deuterium and fusion engines and thrusters as well. And there is some small battery types that use hydrogen and whatnot to produce a little bit of power. So if we hop down here, we have a little fusion engine right there. We have a deuterium tank that is going to be the small one. These are the fuel cells that use oxygen and hydrogen to produce a low but very stable amount of power. This is our processor, so we can actually pull deuterium from stone and ice, through our different versions of these. And then we have our actual generators here. And so we have our really big one, which is the 5 gigawatt. This one, which is the 3 gigawatt, and then this guy, which is the 62.5 megawatt. But even still, for a single block reactor, it's still very strong. Then we're going to have our deuterium tanks here, and then our huge deuterium tanks, as well as our fusion thrusters and our huge fusion thrusters. So if you have a large ship, you will appreciate these applications. Up next, we have our Night Owl mini reactor pack. And so what these are updated versions of the reactors. We got a medium one, a much bigger one, and then a small version of those. Very cool designs. I just kind of like the aesthetics of them as well, because I know reactors kind of become a simple system in general, and I think that these really spice that up. And they will just consume more uranium for more power, and I just think it's a really good way to have different reactor systems. Next up, we're going to have another really cool one, and this is going to be another one from Night Owl, and this is going to be the Rebel engines. And so what these are generally small grid engines that are just designed really well. They look really cool, and they have kind of like different colors and like build schemes, and I really love the aesthetics of it and the applications that they could do to put these into ships. And the best part is that they're all symmetrical, which I absolutely love because I am a freak about that stuff. And they even have a few little afterburners. We can get them to kick on. There we go. You can kind of see how they all have different colors and whatnot. So, really good pack by Night Owl. Next up, we're going to have the Ganymede Tech mod. This is going to have quite a few things in it, and this all is going to be included in the main 1 tech mod. We're going to have a new health station, an incinerator, which has awesome applications, our basic assemblers, and our refineries, which these are 12 times the speed, but do require the Ganymede ore to make them. Same thing with our O2 and H2 producer. This is our maglev gear for like our ships and stuff. These are our upgrade modules. They just strap onto the back of the refinery like normal. Our storage modules as well, also 12 times the storage. This is our big old solar panel boy. He produces way more than a normal solar panel. This is our quantum reactor, which I actually quite like the design. It's a lot more sleek than most designs. Everyone kind of usually goes for big and bulky, but this one went for flat and sleek, and I really enjoy that. This is also a super cool application mod. This is the quantum displacement drive. Generally just your fancy jump drive, but it just looks really cool, and I would even use this build outside of normal applications. But it also is just still standing to be a jump drive as well. Good looking. And here we have our pistons through Ganymede. This one is a 50-foot with no inventory, and this one is a 35 with inventory trade. So just keep that in mind. This is our Ganymede airlocks. These attach to ships, and you can airlock them. They kind of just disable like that, and then boom, back up, you're airlocked. And so all of those are included in the Ganymede tech mod. The only one that is not, which is the one we're going to go over right now, is the Ganymede conveyors. And this is a separate one. So just keep that in mind, but I will have that in the list like normal. Just has some updated, really good looking conveyor systems. This is going to be our AQD upgradable gyroscopes. We have our main piece right here, which is our upgrade module, and then the actual gyroscope right here, and then the booster module. I personally just like having a bigger gyroscope. I didn't like having rows and rows in my ship, so this is just that nice overall good looking design to get a big gyroscope into your ship. Next up we have hover engines. These do come in different sizes and armored versions. They quite literally just hover your ship. Very nice mod. Very smooth on planets and stuff. You have to control them obviously, but it does feel very nice to use these. Next up is our hover rail, and you might be thinking, why would you need hover engines and hover rails? Well, they both have their own applications, and they're both very good, unique mods in themselves. Like these ones have like rails, so they can follow themselves a little bit better, or you can build a little bit more like compressed systems. But like I said, both are super unique and good in their own ways, and this is a really good addition to have a lot of creations come out of both. And this one is going to be the resource nodes mod, and I really like this one personally for like aesthetic and very immersive builds, right? Like I said, I don't mess with these, I just use them out of the box, so some of these can be very easily overpowered by other mods, but these just have great designs, they look cool, they're super immersive, they do make a lot of noise, they shake and stuff like that, so you have a ton of different applications for them, but overall I really do like these static planet-sized builds. Here we have scientific machines, and these are specific to where they allow you to generate credits off of certain tasks that you do. So like there's atmospheric ones, there's gravitational ones, and they're just a very cool application to actually feel like you're actually, like doing something with the data that you're gathering or interacting with. But I do like it, if not even anything, just very immersive and cool to have. Next up we have dynamic modular thrusters. This is just a really nice, more like aesthetic and more applicable building. These are engines that run on both atmosphere and 0G, so they can be kind of seen as overpowered, just kind of take it with a grain of salt. But specifically what I like about these is there's so many designs with them that you can really incorporate them into your ship, and I really admire that fact. A lot of good work went into this mod. They got like half slabs, they got corner slabs, like even like little triangles, and they all kind of go in different directions. So these allow you to build really sleek engine integrations, and I like that a lot. So really good mod. Not that you can tell much right now, but these are the high-tech solar array mods. And so this adds in a couple more solar panels that have better energy production. They just require a few different materials, kind of a little bit more expensive, but generally this just makes it to where if you like to have solar power, you can have variation, and you can kind of have them produce more to where solar is kind of like an actually applicable competitor in the power-like industry. Up next we have the pipelines mod. This is one that kind of, I also, like I said, I like those planet side builds. They just look really good. Keep in mind, these do have to be built on 2 different grids. You can't build these on the same grid, and they do traverse over, like, I think it's a kilometer. It's just a really good addition, and they transport resources, of course. It just looks really good and has a lot of applications. Coming up, we have our greenhouse mod. Now keep in mind that this is cosmetics only, right? But it still does look really good. You have different types of plants, you have these mushroom farms, these like, obviously the circular versions, shelf versions, and also a few more flat ones. You even got trees and these like algae farms, which I love the look of these. They look like radiators almost. But another really good, just kind of cosmetic build. It's kind of nice to see some lush greenery in Space Engineers. You kind of forget that it's there. So I really enjoy having that green lush in the game. This is going to be the molecular force field mod, and these are just hangar doors that have been reconverted into molecular doors, and so they can keep it airtight. They change colors if you go in and out depending on how you have it, or you can just change the colors in general, and they do get a lot bigger, so there's a few more applications with them as well. So really useful mod, and it looks really good as well. One that I have but that is not quite in, there's really no point in showing it, is the stronger oxygen farms. This one is pretty overpowered. It produces 100 times oxygen and only consumes about 10 times more power, but I personally enjoy having the applications of more oxygen, and so this is one that I settled on. Next up, we have the overclocked ore detector mod. Now these ones just allow literally just stronger ore detectors. There is planet side and space ones, so keep that in mind that you do not want to use the space ones on the planet, as they're more powerful and can kind of lag your game if you let it. So there are a few versions here. We have like a smaller version, the weak version, and then the normal one. And then on the ore detectors, the planet ones can go up to 250 meters. Obviously the weak one's not going to be as far, it's 200. And then the space ones can go up to 5,000 meters. Alright, next up we have the hydrogen farm. Well, this one is just because I like to have a way to naturally produce hydrogen. It feels nice to have a system that's actually capable of producing it just based off sunlight and not having to have a colossal amount of ice or to worry about ever running out, having a nice little backup system. So that just drops in these hydrogen farms. About the same-ish rate of oxygen, give or take. I think they're actually quite a bit faster. It's a very nice convenience mod to have, and it has way more applications just in general to kind of build your designs up. Next up, we have the tiered bottles mod, and this just is kind of as it sounds. You can have upgraded bottles. This works for oxygen and hydrogen alike. It just literally is a stronger bottle for them. Very nice and convenient mod to have. Next up, we have the stackable wind turbine. Simple as it sounds, you can just stack wind turbines on each other. I kind of felt it silly that you couldn't do this in the first place, and these all do not inhibit each other, so it's just a very nice convenience power producing mod. Following closely with that, we have pole parts. And these are all just one mod that allows like some spotlights, some lanterns, different designs. Like this one you can actually hook a block onto. So I really enjoyed having these immersive builds kind of where you can have poles around your buildings and whatnot. Next up we have the extreme lights mod. We are in during the day, so I did kind of crank this intensity just to show you guys. This is quite a far, like it is literally called extreme lights for a reason. And this is just a light that allows it to go up to 200 meters. I haven't noticed any lag with anything like these. It's just extremely convenient to put like one of these on every side of your wall so you have the proper reflections and your entire ship is lit up. I personally love it. As you can see, it is a very large radius. I do personally love this mod a lot because I feel like when you have tons and tons and tons of smaller lights, they don't work in the middle when you have like mega builds, and they just kind of lag out when there's thousands of them anyway. So really good simple mod, keeping your lag lower in my opinion, and just having an overall lighting source. So next up we have the middle gate extensions mod.
Meteor storm inbound.
On this one, literally you just kind of put these pieces in the middle and they open up like normal, just in case you have any kind of scary experiments you want to keep hidden away. But they do work very well, obviously, as you can see, and keep all of that stuff locked away. Next up is the battery bank mod. This is just a 3x3 that is just actually one piece, and so you would place 4 of these down instead of the 35 it would normally take you. Just a very convenience mod, and I actually really like the look of them. Like, you can tell they're meant to be modular, and that just looks really good. Next up is the clean windows mod. As you can see, they are sparkling clean, no window gunk or debris. I personally just prefer this just because the other ones are like impossible to get that nice sleek look, and this does exactly that. Next up is the soil tool. This is just a tool you can hold and place soil down, basically just voxel. You can change the different types of voxel, and it does use a gravel type fuel source. Just keep in mind that this is voxel. So do not spawn this in your ship and intend to fly away. If you put this in your ship and you try and fly, your ship will explode or tear apart. So do not use this on anything but static builds. It's worth mentioning that this mod also is capable of removing voxel from your builds without destroying them like a drill would. Also another really nice application with it. Alright, next up we have the health and energy sticks mod. These are just little sticks that come in forms of 25% and 50% for energy and health. You just keep them in your inventory, and whenever you get low enough they trigger and kind of just refill your battery or your health. These personally are a game breaker for me. I love these things so much just because I don't have to constantly go recharge every like 5 minutes at a station. Personally, I think these are great, and I would include them in every game. Next up, we have camera panning. I'm going to jump in my seat here and jump over to my camera. As you can see, I'm kind of stuck looking at myself. If I hold Alt, I can kind of just look around. If I hold Shift Alt, I can change my orientation. So now I can look this way. I mean, obviously you still have your limitations, but you can kind of start to look around a little bit more. Very nice and conveniencing mod. Didn't even know this wasn't a thing in the first place, so this is kind of just like a default for me. Now you won't notice this one once, but this is going to be the welder strobe reduction mod, and this is literally just takes kind of the strobe away. I personally like this when I play at night, and that welder is just hitting my eyes really hard. So it's just a nice normal little weld. Next one up is autofill bottles. This one is also just a very kind of conveniencing mod to where when you run up, it will autofill your bottles. You'll kind of watch your bar sit there and go back and forth. But as you can see, I didn't have a bottle in my inventory because it was empty, and now I do. And if I go and look at my inventory, it's 31% full. So it does take time to fill up, but it is a nice little autofill feature. If you haven't noticed yet, I do have a HUD compass in the top of my screen. This is obviously only for when you're on planets, but it is a very nice and easy mod, especially if you're playing with friends. Alright, next up we're going to have our beams, and these are mostly just a cosmetic build, but I personally think they look really good. It kind of allows you to show the framework a little bit more. It's not just like a big chunk of metal, you know, you kind of have some frames running through or some X's going through, a little bit of structural integrity there. So I personally like this one a lot. Really good mod. Next up we have our panel hinge mod. And this one kind of just allows folding of certain applications, but mostly solar panels. Kind of go ahead and throw this up real quick. Let's see if we can get them here. And we'll kind of reverse these, and you'll see they kind of unfold outward. Obviously, you have to be careful with how you build these, because this could be a very easy way to summon Clang. But when built right, or just in general, they are very cool and kind of like inclusive mod. And last but not least on our list, we have our smart rotors. These simply will just follow the sun. You can attach blocks to them, and obviously solar panels. Just be careful of your build clearance. But simple as that. Good mod. Alright, that was our current mod list that we're using for survival playthroughs. There is quite a few mods there, so there could still be some false interactions or some conflicts between these mods. If you do have any trouble, just remember to go to their workshop pages and just look at their discussions, see if there's any fixes, or see if the authors have posted anything. Also, don't forget while you're there to give these authors the love and support they need, because these mods seriously are fantastic and they keep Space Engineers alive and invigorating, and they're still coming out with new stuff even today. So the fact that they're keeping up on these mods is just exceptional in itself. So give them some love. Hopefully you guys have fun with this mod set, and I'm excited to see what you guys all come up with.